friends and neighbors. Welcome in the light, where laughter's the answer and hearts are shining bright. With calloused hands and wits, so raise your sharp. Let's praise a place where love ignites the spark.
Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome back to Sunnyside. Wow, man, I cannot leave on a little vacation, and the world just can't stay calm. I mean, I can't take a quick little break with the family and friends and just enjoy some time together without having to see the news and find out that once again the United States is being played and we are at war. We're at war. Well, not really at war, because we haven't declared war since, 1941. That's the last time we actually did it correctly. And we've never done it correctly since. And since then, we've also not won a war, despite what politicians might believe. But when you leave Congress out of it and Congress abdicates, what can you do? Well, I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about history. I'm a little fired up. I'm back from vacation. I'm a little sunburned. I can feel it on my nose, but I'm ready to go again. And I want to thank the folks that listen to the show. And I've seen, since I got back from vacay, just a little bit there on Sunday even. And hey, Bill, hey, thanks for listening, buddy. And asking, hey, are you going to come back on? What's going on there? Well, I just had to take a little break. The last couple of weeks, I was just busting my butt, literally, to staying up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, trying to get sheetrocking done and wiring done on my son's basement, because we had a plan for some concrete guys to come in and do the floor in this basement. We're going to have some epoxy done, and I think that's just the best way to deal with the basement. You get a nice finish. It's permanent, and you don't have to do... you don't have to worry about water. You don't have to worry about any of that. So I had the plan that while we were gone, that they would come in and do that. And so once again, I have completely succeeded at estimating the materials I need in a construction project, and absolutely failed at estimating the time it takes for me to accomplish these things on my own. And so I was just busting my butt that week trying to get things in line so these guys could come. And finally, after a few midnights and Friday afternoon, as we're supposed to leave at 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday so we could catch the plane out of Minneapolis, I called Ben, the contractor for the concrete situation we were going to do in the basement. And I was just like, hey, man, I'm sorry to do this. I am just not ready. I was worried because, these guys, they got to get their crew together. They have plans. They've got the materials. We've, done the contract, all that stuff. And he was like, no, that's fine, man. We've got plenty of winter. It's going to be a bit before I get out and do the outdoor stuff anyway, so give it a couple of weeks. And I was like, man, I should have called him like a week and a half ago, because I did get a lot done, but I'm still not where I need to be, and that's what I'll head to next as this week prevails. But as soon as he told me that, I was like, man, thank you very much. He's like, enjoy your vacation. I shut off the radio and just walked out of the basement. I was so tired and just over it that I didn't pick up I probably have tools that need to be charged. I just walked out and went on vacation with our family. And so special thanks to my mom and dad for taking care of the livestock here at Sunnyside Farms. As we get closer to the end of the month, we're selling those steers and getting those steers prepared for the market. And that's looking good. There are still some available, so if you want some, let me know. Just text the show or whatever. But kind of put it out on Facebook. And while I was on vacation, a lot of those slots got filled. But there are still some steers that I guess we could work in for you. But they are moving quickly, so keep that in mind. In the meantime, so thanks, Mom and Dad, for taking care of the steers and taking care of the chickens, making sure the hens were taken care of while we were gone. And our family took off with 3 other families, which we've been doing for many years now. Every couple of years, we'll go on a large group vacation during spring break, and we've just watched our kids grow up together. Now, our kids are our youngest is going to be 17 here soon, and he was one of the younger ones. Then the 2 youngest was my niece and nephew, and they're in junior high and elementary respectively. And so, but we've been doing this for a long time. And so if we go back years, we can see just our our families grow. And now those families now include fiancés and girlfriends, and it's just a wonderful, very large group of people. We had 21 of us, and if we had everybody else there, we probably would have. Now with Austin, we would have had 24. So Tate, Miranda, and Austin didn't come because they're new parents and all of that. But otherwise, everybody else was there. We went to Sarasota, Florida, got a place on Siesta Key. And if you haven't been, I recommend it. And if you don't take my word for what a beautiful place that is, just ask any Mennonite, because there's a ton of them down there. That's their Vegas, I guess. Welcome back to the Lancaster County Fair, and for the first time, we bring you the spectacle of Amish women's mud wrestling. Yeah. Now, here's something you don't see very often. It's a tag team cage match in the Pennsylvania mud between Abigail Miller and Bertha King, known as the Busybonnets, and their opponents, Ruth Stoltzfus and Edna Lapp, who go by the Spinning Sisters. Well, we'll see just what this contest brings to bear, so to speak, as the crowd of mostly teenage boys in their Rumspringa phase look on with eager anticipation. The Spinning Sisters are clad in rather revealing paisley dresses that show a wee bit more ankle than these boys have seen. But check out the Busybonnets in their low-cut aprons and lilac-colored headwear. My goodness, it doesn't get much more scandalous than that here in Lancaster County. And there's the bell. Ruth Stoltzfus jumps into the heavy Pennsylvania mud on the attack as she makes her way diligently to the middle of the ring towards Abigail Miller, who looks a little concerned about the mess this mud is already making of her slightly exposed ankles. The Rumspringa boys hoot and howl as the two grapple for a position of dominance, which is an unfamiliar place for either of these two young ladies, and I have to say, I think the girls find some of the comments from the gallery a little forward. Abigail gets a grip on Ruth's lilac bonnet and tears it off and tosses it in the mud. You can tell Ruth is not appreciative of that little maneuver as she promptly hooks Abigail to the mud like she's wrestling an ornery heifer in the meadow. Abigail's got her hand outstretched to the corner and tags her partner, Bertha King, who swoops from the ropes down on top of Ruth like a turkey vulture on a dying woodchuck. The two roll around in the mud, and Abigail escapes the ruckus to her corner while the boys shout with glee. It looks like Bertha has the advantage, though, as she pushes Ruth's face down into the mud like she's pressing dough to the pie tin. But what? Edna Lapp is climbing to the top rope of the ring and leaps like a bearcat, arms and legs outstretched through the humid Pennsylvania air onto the writhing, mud-covered back of Bertha King. Now, Abigail tears off her apron and tosses it over the ropes to the Rumspringa boys and dashes into the melee. Oh, my goodness. It's bonnets and shredded paisley in a sea of mud as things get serious here in the ring. Edna is twisting Abigail's toes, and Abigail responds by kicking her own teammate Bertha right in the outhouse end. Ooh, Ruth slaps Edna with a fistful of mud, and Bertha knees Edna across the kisser. These ladies are not giving in, folks, and we haven't seen action like this since Kelly McGillis took an unnecessary shower in Witness. And they're riding around on bicycles and hanging out at the beach in their full clothes and beards and everything like that. But what a unique place it is to be. Beautiful weather, 80 degrees all week long. We weren't too far away from the beach. We weren't on the beach, but we were close enough to it. We could walk and go to a couple of the great beaches they have there on Siesta Key, which is, of course, in the Sarasota area. And we just had a wonderful time. I mean, I got to say that it was just great to be with family and extended and friends, as we've been doing, like I said, for many years now. You can get one big house and you can put that many people in it, believe it or not. And by the way, it's a lot cheaper when you do it that way. So we had a lot of fun. We cooked a lot of our meals. We'd go out occasionally. We'd see the sights, but for the most part, we just hung out, told stories, and just had a great time. And so that was what I was doing the entire last week. And so there were things because of what I'd been doing the prior week that I didn't get done. So Scott Bertelson's got a show coming out, Mr. B's Neighbor, not Mr. B's Neighbor, that's his radio show. Our version of that is dinner, Mr. B's Dinner Party. That was supposed to come out last Wednesday, so that's going to come out later today. And then he'll have another one that comes out this Wednesday as well, and then we'll be all caught up as well. So I let some things slide while I was trying to get ready to go on vacation, and yeah. Anyway, that's what happened. So that's where I've been. And while I was there, we're leaving at 3:00 in the morning, on Saturday last week, and we're all gathering together in our different vehicles and meeting up and getting ready to go to the Minneapolis airport. And what is America doing? We're bombing Iran. Why? I do not understand. I just don't get it. But I have some thoughts. And so on this family vacation, we have a variety. Look, we're all family and friends. So for the most part, pretty conservative group of people, all vote about the same way. Not everybody, but pretty close. And I don't know if that's always a good thing. But what's funny about it is that I've been talking politics for a long time, probably since I was, born with it in our family, and following it. And then, that history degree just comes in, and it just keeps banging down my door every time something like this comes up. And it's just hard for me to just always go along to get along, just because that's the way that the party you voted for is deciding that they're going to do their actions. The Republican Party is the party of war. They love war. Donald Trump was elected in 2016 and again in 2024 so that he would be not getting us in any more world, not getting any of these things. And yet he bombs Venezuela. He threatens Greenland. He threatens Canada. He threatens, he's bombing Iran, again. And he's for regime change. And he's listening to the spooks that are in the CIA, with whom you can never trust, by the way. And I say that as a guy from the military. I'm like, anytime the CIA is involved, I'm like, look out. Bad news is a coming. It's been that way since the Dulles brothers were in charge of it, and we'll get back to that in a little bit. But folks, while I'm on vacation, I got some people they're just, like probably a lot of Americans, maybe like some of you, my listeners, and they just love the song Bomb, 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 Iran, Bomb, 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 Iran. And that's catchy, and it's kind of funny, and yet it's also completely, can I say that? Retarded, because this comes from the understanding of politics, like a lot of people with politics or with their own faith, is an inch thick and a mile wide. It doesn't go very deep at all. And so Heidi we're sitting around this giant table, and I will say one thing about that vacation. I'm in recovery right now, so I can tell you that. Like I'm on a cleanse, because there was a lot of drinks involved and a lot of conversations, and I'm just woof. I need to recover for sure. But anyway. People sitting around the table, people that we love, friends and family for forever, but friends for years and years and years, and over 20 years we've been doing this. And so, in one way or another, and they were talking about this, and Heidi's, they were all excited about it. Like, we got the bad guys again, which is, I think, what a lot of times Republicans think, and they're wrong. To some degree. And Heidi just says, stop. He doesn't like that. She's talking about me, as I was just sitting there quietly. He does not like that. Now, I'm the only one sitting at that table that has any military service, 26 years, and I do not like it. But as you know, if you've been listening to the show, I've come from a very libertarian angle, and even though I did register again as a Republican, and I am supporting Stacey Besch in her primary here in the local district area for state senate, which, by the way, we've got a meet and greet coming up for Stacey, and that's going to be here, believe it or not, at Sunnyside. So if you're in the local area, you would like to meet Stacey Besch, you can do that just by coming out. And that'll be on the 28th of this month. So it's a Saturday night, and we're looking forward to that. We'll give more details as we get closer, but mark your calendar for the evening of the 28th if you're interested in coming to Sunnyside, meeting Stacey Besch as she runs in the primary to be the state senator from this area. If you're from this area, if you're not, doesn't really matter for you. But that's anyway. So yeah, I'm back on the Republican ticket to some degree and supporting people. But there's Republicans that have come from my angle before, and they're usually the ones that still are right, the Ron Pauls, the Tom Masseys of the world. People, by the way, that don't get along with the current administration, or the blue-blooded Republican, people that have been running the show for a long time, because there's nothing more that they love to do than spend blood and treasure. Your children's blood and your treasure on their war projects, which we've been doing for a long time. So I don't like that, as you can tell. And the thing of the matter is that, so they asked me, why don't you like it? And I'm like, well, this is not the first time we've done this. We're terrible at it. Like, this is not how the best thing that could happen in this situation is that America has done this thing like they did. I was against that too. They said, apparently we obliterated everything several months ago. We just remember when that word was just passed around and everybody used the same words, obliterated. We obliterated everything. But that wasn't enough because Benjamin Netanyahu, who's been singing literally the same song since, the 1990s, threatening that at any moment, within 7 months, 11 months, 2 years, 1 year, 5 years, 6 minutes, the Iranians are going to go to war with everybody, and been beating that war drum, as the Israelis do. They're in like 7 different wars now, always instigating things, and America has just gone along with it. But it's in this case, we are doing the bidding of Israel for Israel. Trump has said so. This is Israel. This is a war for Israel. I have no idea why we would do that, but we are doing that. But it's not the first time that we've been manipulated by another country. And I'm going to tell you, that's why I don't like this. There's so many reasons that I don't like this. But the best thing that could happen if this whole situation is for America not to get involved in who is going to lead their country, because we suck at that. We're not even very good at who we pick to lead our country, for crying out loud. But we're certainly not good ever at picking winners in other countries. But like the same people that run the enormous businesses and the enormous corporations and the enormous, entities behind government, there is no such thing as the deep state. It's just the state. It's all deep. And the same people have the same mindset about how a corporation can gobble up little companies and all of that stuff. They're the same people that are running the country telling us that we can gobble up and control other countries. And I don't like that. I realize that I'm just a wee little farmer in the middle of nowhere with a good voice, but a tiny voice, and it's irrelevant what I think, for sure. But at some point, are we going to have to get brains and actually, talk about this, or are we just going to go along with whatever the knuckleheads that are controlling the narrative are telling us? I'm a little infuriated. This is, you ask my kids, this is not what it sounds like when I'm furious, but I'm this is a family show. I'm not happy about this situation once again. And here is why. A little bit of history for you. This is not the first time that the United States of America, the Great Satan, as the Iranians have been notoriously known to call us, but there might be a reason for that, and it has to do with what happened in 1953 in Operation Ajax. See, back then, there was this guy named Mohammad Mossadegh, and he was elected. This was, by the way, the last time that Iran had a legitimate election in a democratic situation, and they were very, they were still Iran. It was still the Mideast, but they were a completely different country than they are today, and they were also 100% under the thumb of Great Britain, who had been in their business since World War I, because they had taken the time to mess up the entire Middle East. That belongs to Great Britain, who had failed in the United States, had failed with Australia, had failed in most of the Western Hemisphere, had failed in just about everything. They could not have won the Second World War or the First World War without the United States getting involved. And for whatever reason, we continued to listen to Great Britain. Maybe that's just the Irish coming out in me, but we can blame a lot of this on Britain, including modern map lines and territories in the Mideast entirely. And so they had, what they had done, for good reason, is they had gone in like they do in their mercantilism kind of business way that they've been doing for a couple hundred years at this point. They decided they were going to go and they were going to seek and find oil, which they did. And now back then it was a different company, but essentially just call it BP, because it was British. It's British Petroleum now. It was under a different name back then. It was the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, but it's BP is who it is. And they had invested all of the infrastructure, and they had found the oil, and they had come up with a fantastic deal, particularly if you're British, not so much if you're Iranian, that they would own all of the oil that they had. Maybe they'd give a little bit back, say like 16% back to Iran. And then they would also, I don't know how they got away with this, but they would also then tax the Iranians for the income that they received from the 16% that the BP gave back to them. But that's just kind of how British people in general believe that they can run the world, particularly in the 20th century. It did not pan out for them, obviously, and now they're insignificant in so many ways, in my opinion. But at that point, they still had a lot of things going on. And so they invested in it, and they created kind of the modern Iran, and they did all kinds of deals in the World War I, in between that period, and even after, into the formation of Israel. They had all kinds of things going on in the Middle East. They really believed that that was part of their kingdom. Now, it wasn't officially part of the United Kingdom, but it was definitely in their realm of influence. And what influence they had. It wasn't that particularly different for a system that they themselves were familiar with. They had a head of state who was the king, but in Iran they call that a shah, and the shah was basically a figurehead, kind of like in Great Britain, really. And then they would have elected, officials that create a parliament, and then they kind of ran that. And BP ran it all, and because they were a national interest to the Great Britain, and so I guess I can make this show as long as I want it to be, but basically what happened in 1951, there was a guy named Mohammad Mossadegh who got elected as prime minister of Iran, and he had quite a long career in Iranian politics, and was a little socialist. I will say that he was a little socialist, but that was a very popular thing at that time. I mean, America was a little socialist starting in the 1930s. That's how you get social security. So I mean, like, they were doing things. So he was just kind of in that, and he had a Western education. He was a pretty popular guy, and had served in a variety of positions, including being the minister of finance and a governor of a couple of different districts, including Azerbaijan and in different places like that. And so he had come from a good family, and he had some ideas. He was also a litigator, and he wanted things to be fair. And in his mind, one of the things that he thought should happen is that, it's kind of ridiculous that, all of this oil is ours. It's Iranian oil, and we're getting a raw deal from the British, even though it's true they invested in all of this infrastructure and they created it. They viewed it as British oil, and but the problem is that the people of Iran were suffering, and he did not like that at all. So when he got elected, he said, well, we're going to nationalize, not my favorite thing, but, even old Donald Trump is for nationalization of certain elements of our economy now. Back then, Mossadegh said, well, we're going to nationalize the oil industry, and basically just took it away from BP, which was infuriating to the stiff upper lip Brits. They were furious. They viewed it as, you just stole all our stuff. And now what's funny is that President Truman, obviously America had interest as well. Let's call that, I don't know, Standard Oil. Let's call that Rockefeller money. And they were also all over the Middle East. And so they said, well, Truman's deal was like, well, we'll just go 50-50 with you. That's a pretty good deal, considering that the British were going 84-16. And they would not back down from that. Not one bit. Not a farthing. And so they kept their stiff upper lip, but they lost their oil because the Iranians took it back. And the United States had a deal like, well, we'll go 50-50 with you. And they thought that was pretty good. Had Britain done that, then we'd probably be okay. We would, because what they didn't have in Iran was people that necessarily knew how to find oil, knew how to necessarily pull it out of the earth, and how to refine it. So that became a problem later when when they were shut down, basically because the British they threw a little fit, and so they sent their little navy over there, and they had converted their navy from coal to oil after World War II. So they really needed that oil, and they needed their people back home to keep driving around, And so America, the world was in the same position, but I will say that, in my opinion, if the United States would just do business with people and not try to involve themselves in the governance of countries, life would be a lot better. But I know that's a ridiculous libertarian concept of just doing business with people. Well, Great Britain didn't want to do business. They wanted their oil back. They sent a naval blockade, and Iran couldn't do anything with their oil at that point. And by this time, Eisenhower is now the president, and he's big buddies with Winston Churchill, who's still the prime minister after World War II in Great Britain. And Churchill is trying to convince Eisenhower to come along. We're going to go ahead and get rid of this duly elected prime minister, this real pain in the butt guy named Mohammad Mossadegh, and we're going to get rid of him. And at first, Eisenhower's like, that sounds like a bad idea. We're not going to do that. I'm not interested in nation building. I don't want to do that. But Churchill just bided his time, and he knew eventually he'd be able to convince, this new president who, has got great memories from winning World War II and all of his buddies in Great Britain. And eventually, Eisenhower does fold. And guess what? That, by the way, is because he's got the Dulles brothers whispering in his ear. One Dulles brother is the Secretary of State, and the other Dulles brother is head of the CIA. And the CIA and MI6, which is like James Bond, but uglier. And they are going to work together to create an operation called Ajax, which is funny because you use Ajax as a soap, and they're gonna scrub Iran clean. They're gonna put the Shah in power and give him more power. Now, there's lots of things happening behind the scenes. First of all, like I said, Mossadegh was a very popular guy. He was duly elected. It wasn't just that he nationalized the Iranian oil industry that had this crazy deal. BP had a deal that was set in, I think, 1933, and they had a 60-year deal, 84-16. 60 years. So it was supposed to expire in 1993. It doesn't matter. It all went away. And what happened is Mossadegh was also doing things like introducing Social Security, which is, that's a popular Rooseveltian thing. It's a bad idea, but it's something like he did that for that. He made the Shah give up his lands, and the people, then the peasants, could then buy back the land over a 25-year period. They had to invest 20% of that annually so they could continue to, develop their economy and all of these other things. His idea, as he wrote back in 1951 in a speech that he gave, this is Mossadegh, he said, "Our long years of negotiations with foreign countries," fill in the blank who those might be, "have yielded no results thus far. With the oil revenues, we could meet," now he was a finance minister, remember that, "we could meet our entire budget and combat poverty, disease, and," this is what he said about his own people, and he was still popular, "backwardness among our people. Another important consideration is that by the elimination of the power of the British company, BP, we would also eliminate corruption and intrigue, by means of which the internal affairs of our country, Iran, have been influenced. Once this tutelage has ceased, Iran will have achieved its economic and political independence." That sounds like a cool word for us. We might even have a day named after that in America. "The Iranian state prefers to take over the production of petroleum itself. The company should do nothing else but return its property to the rightful owners. The nationalization law provides that 25% of the net profits on oil be set aside to meet all the legitimate claims of the company for compensation. It has been asserted abroad that Iran intends to expel the foreign oil exports from the country and then shut down oil installations. And not only is this allegation absurd," he said, "it is utter invention." So the British were telling lies because they were mad that their oil got taken away. His intention was, over the course of time, to use the revenues from the Iranian oil, as it was nationalized, to pay back BP and, get them out of there. That was not a 60-year deal, and that's what BP had, and they were very, very angry about it. So here's the thing about Mossadegh. He was secular. All right. And so he wanted to keep the government of Iran secular. He wanted to keep the government as it was. He wanted the Shah to be a figurehead. He did not want the Shah to be leading the country because Shahs are not elected. And he wanted the elected government of Iran to run the show, obviously under his leadership as a popular prime minister for this 2-year period, and the what are they called? The Ayatollahs, right? The people that were in charge of the religious sect, which in Iran is Shiite. Now, if you're Shiite, that means that you believe that your accession of your leadership comes from the family of Muhammad. And if you're Sunni, they believe that you can become a mullah or whatever, kind of like, it's a little bit like Orthodox Christians believe that they have apostolic succession from the apostles because it was the apostles that set up the original churches, and they've continued that tradition for 2,000 years. They believe in apostolic succession. Believe me, these are not the same pairing, but I'm just trying to explain it. And then the Sunnis would be more like the Protestants, who's like any Tom, Dick, or Harry, or Susie now, can become a pastor. They do not see eye to eye. The Sunnis and the Shiites do not like each other. They haven't since they had their little split. Now, let me be very clear about how that works in my opinion. I do not believe that the prophet Muhammad was a true prophet. I know that'll get you killed in a lot of places, but maybe not a lot of people are listening to this anyway. So I don't believe that he was yet another prophet and the final prophet after Christ. Now, if you are a Muslim, you believe that the words of the Quran are directly from God. If you are a Christian, you believe that the words in the Bible, and if you're Jew, they believe that you are inspired by God and written by men. But they do not view it that way. So, like everything, no matter how obtuse and how often it conflicts in the Quran, and the messaging isn't consistent, because I think Muhammad was making a lot of stuff up as he went along. But that's beside the point. This same faith has two different sects, and they do not like each other. So most of the Mideast is Sunni, which would include Iraq to some degree, and obviously there are spots here, but they're always fighting with each other about that one thing. It's not that different than when in 1054 the Catholics, the Roman Catholics, and the Orthodox Catholics had a schism that ended it all because they excommunicated each other, mostly because Rome thought that the Bishop of Rome, which is known as the Pope, he was the boss, like the first among equals, and the Orthodox, and he could make all of the decisions. And I'm very much paraphrasing this, and the Orthodox people are like, I don't think that's, the patriarchs are like, we're not doing that. That sounds like a bad idea. But that little kick in of the door, just like in every faith, including Islam, and in the different sects of Judaism today, that little opening in the door can be kicked wide open and never, by the devil, in my opinion, can never be closed again. And so then you get the Reformation in the Christian faith, and you get all the Protestants, and they just keep planting churches to this very day. And everybody, if you don't like where you're at, you just go to another place, and on and on and on and on and on. Anyway, these two places don't get along. Now, they're Shiite in Iran. They're Sunni in most of the other places in the in the Mideast, and Mossadegh believes that we need to keep this separate. We got to, I'm going to Thomas Jefferson this, and I was like, we'll have like a little separation of, not a separation of church and state. By no means is it. But he does believe you should have a secular government. He thinks that the Ayatollahs, the people that are in charge of the Shiite faith, they need to continue to do what they do, and they have tremendous influence, and that they should support the Shah. And that's how they keep that whole organization in place, but that they should not be involved in government. And at first, they were fine with that. The Ayatollah was, yeah, it makes sense, right? We don't want to get involved with that. At the same time, what's happening is, I don't know, communism. Communism is now the new favorite thing. However you want to look at it, it's the favorite thing. And Eisenhower doesn't like it. Truman doesn't like it. Winston Churchill doesn't like it. And you know who else doesn't like it? Because at this point, they've pretty much taken over Eastern Europe. if you recall the Cold War, so the Russians are a threat, and they're building their little buffer states, and they have no money. They're paying people in vodka and equipment and all of this other stuff, and but this leads to 50 or 60 years of great James Bond movies, right? Because the Russians were always the bad guys, even when I was growing up. I mean, can't get, and they were bad guys. They did terrible. The communist revolution was terrible. They killed 100 million people. It's ridiculous. Stalin's still around. This is all happening, and this is a problem for Western powers, because the last thing that they want is the communists to be successful. Now, by the way, the mullahs, the Ayatollahs, they don't want communists in Iran either. Not at all. Why? Because one important precept, according to Marx, was that you got to get rid of religion, which would be a big problem in an Islamic state. One thing about the Muslims is that what they're very respectful to their mother and father. Their whole purpose is to live a good life, and there is a way to live that good life. And I don't know how that gets you to redemption as a Christian. I don't think that works, but that's their whole goal. And so there's some things you can learn about respect for your parents and respect for one another and that type of thing. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's a dead faith, in my opinion. That's what I say as a Christian, but I'd say the same thing about Judaism. Also a dead faith. They reject the Messiah that's there, in prophecy for several hundred years, and just that's not going to. So that's the Christian perspective of this entire thing. Boy, I'm making everybody mad today. But just to understand how that works, Mossadegh was like, you should stay over there. The Shah should stay over there. The people should elect their leaders, and we should be able to advance as a nation. Everybody's on board, maybe not the Shah so much, but eventually what happens is that the Shah is not, this family's easy. And the Shah had been replaced at different times. Those families have been replaced by who else but Great Britain. And so they were looking forward to, like, the Shah is like, maybe you should be the supreme leader of Iran or whatever. And because we're thinking that with this blockade, what's going to happen is that the communists are going to end up being the only resource. And then what are you going to, well, that turns the Shiites now against Mossadegh, because they now think, well, maybe I should be in charge. And of course, we know how that ended up. They did become in charge, but first they had to get the Shah installed, which the United States and Great Britain, in their brilliant minds, determined, because of oil and the fascination with Western ability to make things better, and being in charge, that they created a coup that was fairly bloodless, but it was a coup nonetheless that at first didn't look like it was going to succeed, but through very excellent use of money and buying people off and propaganda and infiltrating organizations and pretending to be this way or pretending to be that way, they succeeded in ultimately a successful coup. And the Shah had left. There's many other parts to the story, but the Shah came back, and then he was installed, and then the Shah was in charge from 1953 until 1979. And the problem with that is that then they immediately renegotiated all of the oil contracts, like you do, and got rid of all of the ideas that Mossadegh had in place. And there was still this constant threat, because there were communists that were like a communist party. They weren't very popular, but there was a communist party in Iran, and they weren't happy with how this whole thing was happening. And you could see how Mossadegh, some of his ideas did seem pretty socialist. So they were in favor of those things, things like workers' compensation, unemployment, Social Security, things that Americans get fat off of to this day. They're kind of for those type of things, including the returning of the land to the Iranian people. Not Persian, by the way. Persian's a name that was given to the Iranians, which Iran means royal. So like Persian was a name that was given them by the Greeks. So FYI. But anyway, they're still a very secular country, and they're still a secular country under the Shah. But there's no more truly democratic elections. The United States and Great Britain, more so now the United States than Great Britain. This is how you become the great Satan, because you just did the work. Like, we looked at first like we were going to be their hope. It looked like under Truman, and even at the beginning under Eisenhower, that we were not going to get involved, that we were just going to buy their oil. We were going to continue to help develop their country. We were going to just have a business relationship 50-50. We weren't getting involved in their government. We liked the fact that they were democratically elected. We didn't really care if they had a Shah, which is like a king, because that's what Great Britain had. That's not our bag, but whatever. And then it all changed because we were afraid of communists. But we created that fear. And because Great Britain created a blockade, because they had a mamby-pamby moment where they were mad that they had their oil taken, they created a blockade that basically shut down their oil operations in Iran, and then they didn't have anybody to run the refineries. And so, I mean, who else are you going to turn to? Russia is right over there. Like, they kicked the door wide open for it. We created that problem. I don't want to sound like Ron Paul here, but like, that's what we did, because we had the Dulles brothers and the CIA that were in there saying, we're good at this. Like, we're really good at this. And by the way, it looked that we were, for a long time, that we were good at this. And then the CIA, from that point on, they could just go and manipulate whatever country we wanted to get involved in. And every president has listened to them. If I was president, I would tell you this: the CIA, when I saw, besides the president's daily brief in the morning every day, after that, all I want is data. No opinion. Not interested in your opinion, because I don't know where it comes from. But chances are it's coming from a weird bar or brothel in some weird part of the world that you're getting your information from, some other nefarious state, whom cannot be trusted. Anyway, that's just my opinion on spooks. But they thought they were really good at it. And one could argue, maybe we were, because it was successful. I mean, we got the Shah in power. And then that ended in 1979, because by this point, the Shah was now not friends with the Ayatollah. And this caused a problem, because the Shah was living a completely Western life, huge parties, all kinds of money. I mean, just like clearly living off the backs of the people in an egregious manner, and obviously was just working under the thumb of the United States and Great Britain and whomever else, happened to be in there. And they had enough. They had enough in a country like Iran. You always see the pictures if you go to YouTube or wherever. It's like, Iran before 1979. And they look, like they were just in New York. Some people were in traditional dress. A lot of people were just in Western clothes, as they had been for, a century. But imagine how you would feel in this country, and maybe you do, if you are being so obviously controlled by another country or two or three or whatever, so obviously controlled, you have no say, and everybody has at the root of it their faith, and their faith happens to be Shiism or Shiite Muslim, and they gain popularity. They gain enough popularity in that next generation so that by 1979. The idea of Sharia law is actually appealing, because of what they, I think, rightfully saw as undue, unfair, and unmitigated Western influence. If we were just doing business with Iran, if we had just done a 50-50 deal like Truman had put in place, if we had not gotten involved in their politics, if we had not used the CIA, if we told MI6 to go pound sand and make another movie or whatever, if we had not done that, so many things would change. Now, that's Monday morning quarterbacking, and it is what it is. So then from 1979, and they took hostages, and that was under the Carter administration, and then Reagan got them out in a sweetheart deal, and then somewhere in there, also Iraq invaded Iran. There was that. They were Sunnis fighting Shias, and there was all these things occurring, and at the end of the day, you have 40 years of Sharia law in Iran, and it gets regressively, I guess you would say, worse every single year, as would happen in any time in human history when the priests are in charge of the politics. If your faith, if your religion demands that you must be forced into your faith, that's not a real religion. That's not real faith. The Catholics tried it. They were even doing that into the 20th century in the United States and around the world by aggressive behavior. They had their best days back, a few hundred years before that in the Inquisition, as Mel Brooks would say. But if your faith demands that you have to take physical action and hurt or desecrate the image of God in another human being, then you're worshiping a false god. Christians have done it. It doesn't work out. The best times for the Hebrews was maybe during the Judges period. Maybe that was one time. But those, were they priests? Most of that after they picked their own king, like it never worked out good for them. And most of their kingdoms were utter trash. It says so in the Bible. Like they were just one bad kingdom after another, and with the exception of a few, a handful of good kings, and they were good kings because they actually dealt with their own people, and they weren't necessarily going around picking fights with everybody else around them. It didn't work out. Eventually, diaspora, all that other stuff. But in general, it doesn't work out in Christianity. It doesn't work out in Judaism. It doesn't work out in Islam to have your priests, your priest class, running the government. Why? Because, as we know, we like to think in America, that they are separate so that you can practice your faith personally and not have to worry about getting murdered for it. That's a unique thing about the United States. And it is still something that we have, but any country is just as susceptible, in my opinion, to using faith and religion, regardless of what religion it is, as justification for murdering other people, which is really sad. And when you blend those two into politics, states are all secular. All states are secular because they're not, like a corporation, a real person. There's no soul to a state. There's no soul to a corporation. It's just an entity of hopefully good people who make that entity up. And it's not always the case. The old adage that, what is it? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. We saw that from 1979 until today. It doesn't break my heart to see the Ayatollah gone, and then the next one probably gone, and the next one, and they just keep appointing Ayatollahs like it'll never end. And I don't think it necessarily breaks the hearts of all of the Iranian people, but I assure you that if you continue to do that, and then you dictate who's going to be in charge, and then it's clearly you're just standing up another government, there isn't an interior revolution. There isn't that. And it becomes the same thing over and over and over again. And why? Honestly, why? So that Israel can be the main power in the Middle East. That's the number one goal right now. And why should they do that? Like, why in the world would we want that? Why would you want that? The problem with the Palestinians is that they're Shiite. That's why they're connected to Iran, and that's why the Sunni nations around them don't really care, whatever the deal is. So it's not the same thing. And it's been a long time since Christians have had this, ardent understanding of there used to be they're Catholic or, we're Protestant, and there's a back and forth and there's this long history and all of that stuff. Well, it's still present between Sunnis and Shiites, but there's still people. All politics is local, my friends. It's all local. The people in the villages around the world, they all want to do pretty much the same thing. And they have their biases and they have their ignorant ideas, including here in the United States, but everywhere else in the world too. And to me, and this is that ridiculous libertarian idea is like, well, we can do business with you or we can not do business with you. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop you from doing business with other people. Maybe we can just do business. I thought that's what Donald Trump was going to do, the great deal maker. I don't know what deal he's making with Israel. I don't know what deal he's making for the United States. But if you think that this is going to make the world a safer place, that's a good hope. That's the best result. And it's only the result if we do not tell them, like we did in 1953, and then, dealt with the consequences for the last 70 years of getting involved because we think we're good at organizing governments. And we're not. Look at our own government. We're not. We're not good at it. But we tried to do it, and we continue to do it over and over and over again. And you've got your ardent guys on the red ticket that are like, this is how we clean up the world. I didn't know that was our constitutional responsibility. Did you? I didn't know that. Show me where that's the reality. But we're going with it because, we're the majority party for a hot second until the midterms. Seems like a bad idea, and I'm upset about it. And so when you're sitting at the table around and we're having beers and we're talking about great things, the weather, how to make your lawn look greener, talking about cows and cattle and drainage and all the cool things, and then you bring up bomb Iran with an understanding of things an inch deep and a mile wide, my wife is going to tell you, he doesn't like that. And I don't. I don't like it at all. And it's not like it's something that hasn't been predicted in the recent past. Right now, everyone at Turning Point is trying to convince you that they've always just been about faith. And that's not what Charlie Kirk was a faithful person. Charlie Kirk was a guy who obviously had a wonderful relationship with Christ, I believe. But this Turning Point faith and all of that, that's a new development. He was focused on our constitutional responsibilities as a government. It was our responsibilities as a nation. He helped get Donald Trump elected, didn't he? Big time. Like, it was a huge factor in that. Everyone acknowledges that the youth vote came from Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. They were successful in that regard. And it was based on the idea that Donald Trump wasn't going to go around starting wars, because that's what he said he wouldn't do. And that's not what is happening. And a year ago, come this April, so in just a couple more weeks here, this is what a guy named Charlie Kirk tweeted out. It's going unnoticed because so much other news is happening, but the war drums are beating again in D.C. The warmongers worry this is their last chance to get the white whale they've been chasing for 30 years, an all-out regime change war against Iran. A new Middle East war would be a catastrophic mistake. Our military stockpiles are depleted from 3 years of backing Ukraine. Our effort to reshore manufacturing has only just begun and will take years to bear fruit. War would worsen our already immense deficit and national debt. Iran is larger than Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan combined. A war would not be easy and could easily become a calamity. Now, this is what Charlie Kirk said. Thanks to President Trump's restraint during his first term, America has a golden opportunity to pull away from Middle East quagmires for good. We shouldn't throw that opportunity away so that some D.C. has-beens can feel tough by sending young Americans to die yet again. 10 million views, noon p.m., the 3rd of April last year. Charlie Kirk. They got rid of him. And now here we are, hunting our white whale. And that's why I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And I mean, you think whatever you want to think, but we're not good at this. We're just not good at it. And we do not owe, we don't owe Israel anything. I hope that the people of Iran are able to recover from this and that they can rejoin the world conversation in a business way and let them be Shiite and let them, but hopefully they are able to separate the two as Mossadegh had hoped that would stay in place. We're not dealing with communists anymore. Who can even say who the socialists are? On what party? Where are they? Maybe mostly on the left side, but they're still pretty socialist anymore on the right side here in this country. I mean, I just don't like it. Did I make that clear? I don't like it. Man, a guy can't leave on vacation for 1 week. And we're doing all of this. We've been lied to. The deal maker's been busting deals. Not working for me. And that's how I feel about that. Maybe he can figure it out. You know, maybe I'm too dumb to understand. But the good news is that this isn't a huge show. There's not 1 million people listening to this. So it's just you and me having this conversation, just like we're sitting around a nice table, having a beer in 80-degree weather next to the pool. And, yeah, Troy doesn't like it. Well, until next week, my friends, I'm going to be working on sheetrock. I'm going to be settling into the 60-degree weather that we've got here, which is beautiful and gorgeous, and I'm thankful for it. And I appreciate you listening to me, and I really do hope and pray that you will do the same thing. Hope and pray for the good of our country, for the good of our world, for the people that are affected by this, to the families who have already lost American soldiers, and as Donald Trump promises, we're going to continue to lose more. And just pray, and then maybe, vote or whatever. But pay attention, and don't stop trying to be the sunny side of someone else's life.
When the shadows fall and doubts begin to creep, remember, together we're strong, never weak. Lift your neighbor up with kindness every day. Let your actions speak the words you want to say.
The Sunnyside of Life is a weekly production about our life on the family farmstead here in Iowa, the liberties we prize, and the pursuits which make us happy. None of this is possible, of course, without Christ in our lives. For the Lord God is our sun and our shield. He gives us grace and glory.
Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life. Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life.
May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may the sunny side of your life in Christ be made evident unto you each and every day, and give you peace.